Hello, good evening, and welcome to this Bible study of the Banking Blessings Ministry. Today's Bible study focuses on an important friendship that is described in the Bible, the friendship between David and Jonathan. Jonathan was the first king of Saul, the son of Saul, the first king of Israel. And David was working under his father as a harp player. And we know that in a previous Bible study, we studied how David killed Goliath, a Philistine champion that was terrorizing the Israeli army. Jonathan was a second in command in Saul's army and observed all this and made contact with David and got to admire David a lot. Today we'll look at their relationship. We will learn that Jonathan admired David because he found David to be very brave. He found David to have strong leadership qualities, somebody that was capable of organizing people to do something that he needed them to do. And David had a strong faith in God. Jonathan observed all this of David and really admired him for it. And he and David became very close friends. Jonathan, in fact, chose to be a reliable friend to David because he found qualities in David that he admired, and in fact qualities that we will find are quite close to his own qualities, but still David appeared to be a superior person, a person that can lead people, and Jonathan recognized something in David somewhat similar to what God saw in David. Something in David impressed him so much that he expected this person to be a strong leader sometime, and he decided to throw his support to help David as much as possible, essentially to become his closest and trusted friend. He believed that David would become king of Israel. He didn't really know this, but just because of the qualities he saw in David, the kind of thing that David did. So he offered, and we will see that instead of trying to fight David, because after all, Jonathan could have been seen to have a claim to becoming the next king of Israel after Saul. But he instead decided to throw his support behind David, and in fact at some point talked to David and said, look, I will be your second in command. We'll come to this. Let's not try to pick ahead of us. We will also learn that Jonathan's father, the first king of Israel, Saul, actually advised Jonathan that David was a threat to his kingdom. He wanted Jonathan to see David as an enemy, to seek to eliminate David in order to clear the way for himself. But Jonathan remained a loyal and supportive friend of David. For him, David was the person to support, and he would do his best to help David as much as possible. But he remained faithful to his father Saul. After all, his father made him second in command, it was the first battalion commander that his father appointed. So he remained totally loyal to his father, but he saw a future in which he would be serving as a second in command to David. The story we are going to look at today is all over the place in the Bible. We have 1 Samuel chapter 13, 14, 18, 19, 20, and 23, and 2 Samuel chapter 1 and chapter 9. Of course, we are not going to read all these, otherwise we'll be here for several weeks. But let us begin with trying to understand Jonathan. Who was Jonathan? Quite simply, we know that Jonathan was the son of the first king of Israel, Saul. And he was the second in command to Saul. We'll see that in a Bible passage right now. And was the first person that Saul appointed to command 1,000. Today we call them battalion commander. So he was the first battalion commander that Saul appointed to the Israeli army. Let us read about this in 1 Samuel chapter 13, verse 2.
1 Samuel chapter 13. Saul chose 3,000 men from Israel. 2,000 were with him in Michmash and in the hill country of Bethel, and 1,000 were with Jonathan at Gibeah in Benjamin. The rest of the men he sent back to their homes. So
Saul chose 3,000 men. He kept 2,000 under his direct command and kept 1,000, gave 1,000 over to Jonathan. It is based on this that we said that Jonathan was the first battalion commander that Saul appointed in the Israeli army under Saul. Let's continue to understand Jonathan. There is an incident that happened in his command while he was commander under Saul, that he witnessed what I call a Philistine humiliation of the Israeli army under Saul. The Philistines set up to go to battle against Israel. They assembled in Michmash, and their number was so great. The equipment they carried with them was so overwhelming that the Israeli army did not see a chance. Even Saul, the leader of Israel, did not see a chance. So they went into hiding. The Bible said they hid in holes, in whatever they could find, they hid. They did not want to confront the Philistines. The Philistines were set up to fight them, but the Israeli soldiers were hiding and were on the run, in fact, even before the battle started. Let us read about this setting in 1 Samuel chapter 13, verses 5 to 7.
1 Samuel chapter 13. The Philistines assembled to fight Israel with 3,000 chariots, 6,000 charioteers, and soldiers as numerous as the sand on the seashore. They went up and camped at Michmash, east of Bethaven. When the men of Israel saw that their situation was critical and that their army was hard-pressed, they hid in caves and thickets, among the rocks and in pits and cisterns. Some Hebrews even crossed the Jordan to the land of Gad and Gilead. Saul remained in Gilgal, and all the troops were with him were quaking with fear.
All the troops with him were quaking with fear. Now, this in verse 7, it says some Hebrews even crossed the Jordan. That's they crossed to the other side. They crossed to the Philistine side. Okay, so the ones that remained with Saul were very afraid, so afraid that the story says they were quaking with fear. Well, so several Israeli soldiers left the battle, and those that remained, in fact, didn't have weapons. They didn't have enough weapons. And let us read about this, because it's kind of describing a sorry state, a pathetic state for the Israeli army against the Philistines in this particular battle. 1 Samuel chapter 13, verses 15 and 22.
Then Samuel left Gilgal and went up to Gibeah in Benjamin, and Saul counted the men who were with him. They numbered about 600. So on the day of the battle, not a soldier with Saul and Jonathan had a sword or a spear in his hand. Only Saul and his son Jonathan had them.
Yes, because there is so much to read, we have selected only a few verses. But what it shows here is that the Israeli army was afraid. Several of them crossed over to the enemy. Out of the 2,000 that Saul had with him, he had only 600 left. And those with him were afraid. They were ill-equipped. So they were essentially waiting to be beaten by the Philistines. Saul, the commander, had nothing. He didn't know what to do. And it was then that his son Jonathan did something that tells us who he is. So what happened? Jonathan, just by himself, he and his armor, he called his armor bearer. So let us go over to the Philistine side. Let us see. Maybe God will help us. He said he took his armor bearer and his faith in God, because we are going to read in the Bible where he said that God will find a way to help them, because it does not matter how few they are. It does not matter that it was only him. Physically, it was only him and his armor bearer. He was single-handed, and he was going to confront the Philistine. He was going to confront a Philistine outpost. Well, not the entire army, but just an outpost of the army. He was going to start something with them because he had faith that God is going to show him a way to deal with these people. Let us read about this in 1 Samuel chapter 14, verse 1, 6 to 7, 13 to 15, and 20 to 23. Before we read, what we're going to find is that he attacked the outpost, killed about 20 people, essentially defeated. The outpost was like a checkpoint. He defeated the people there. But the news of what happened there sent panic into the Philistine camp, and they started running. This is the work of God. Then let us read about it.
1 Samuel chapter 14. One day Jonathan, son of Saul, said to the young man bearing his armor, "Come, let's go over to the Philistine outpost on the other side." But he did not tell his father. Jonathan said to his young armor bearer, "Come, let's go over to the outpost of those uncircumcised fellows. Perhaps the Lord will act on our behalf. Nothing can hinder the Lord from saving, whether by many or by few." "Do all that you have in mind," his armor bearer said. "Go ahead, I am with you, heart and soul." Jonathan climbed up, using his hands and feet, with his armor bearer right behind him. The Philistines fell before Jonathan, and his armor bearer followed and killed behind him. In the first attack, Jonathan and his armor bearer killed some 20 men in the area, about half an acre. Then panic struck the whole army, those in the field, the camp and field, and those in the outposts and raiding parties, and the ground shook. It was panic sent by God. Then Saul and all his men assembled and went to the battle. They found the Philistines in total confusion, striking each other with their swords. Those Hebrews who had previously been with the Philistines had gone up with them to their camp, went over to the Israelites who were with Saul and Jonathan. When all the Israelites who had hidden in the hill country of Ephraim heard that the Philistines were on the run, they joined the battle in hot pursuit. So the Lord rescued Israel that day, and the battle moved on beyond Beth Aven.
So the Lord rescued Israel that day. Well, let us look back at what we have learned about Jonathan. So in this battle, he witnessed the Philistines. He witnessed Israel being humiliated by the Philistines, because the Philistines amassed for battle, and the Israeli soldiers were frightened and were hiding all over the place. Jonathan remembered, just like David remembered against Goliath. But this was before the battle with Goliath. This happened before David confronted Goliath. So in this particular battle, David was not yet in the picture. Jonathan remembered that God will fight for Israel. He strongly believed that God was the God of Israel and will fight for Israel because Israel worshipped him. And because of that, because of this faith in God, he decided to try something desperate, something he didn't really know what would happen, but he knew that he needed to do something. that they should not be in hiding. In order for God to help them, they have to do something. They have to start something. So he took his armor bearer, went over to and attacked the Philistine outpost, killed the 20 people that were guarding that outpost, and the news of what happened there sent panic in the Philistine camp. Then the Philistines got confused, some fought among each other, but the important thing is they ran. They took off. They thought that a large army has been set up against them. The Bible said that this was panic that was sent by God, and clearly that's what it is. I mean, one person attacking an outpost, somehow they should have known that this is one man and one man alone, that there was nothing he could do to them by himself, that he was with God. So using his faith in God, he defeated the Philistines through this kind of miracle occurrence. Then the Israeli army, when they saw that the Philistines were on the run, they pursued them, and Israel defeated Philistine in a battle in which Israel looked almost hopeless before Jonathan stepped in. So we saw Jonathan as somebody that saw the Israeli army in a desperate situation, thought of what to do, and started doing it without knowing what the outcome would be. And of course, his faith pushed him through, and God acted in his favor and helped him save the Israelis. Well, let us look at a similar lesson we learned about David. Our lesson about David and Goliath actually came first, but the incident, the battle in which Jonathan defeated the Philistines, came before the battle in which David confronted Goliath. But the situations were similar. For the Goliath situation, again, Israelis were being humiliated by the Philistines. They were hiding Goliath, they were afraid of Goliath, they didn't know what to do until David stepped in and decided that, and remembered that the Israeli army is the army under God, the army of the living God, that they should not be afraid of anybody or any army. And he went into action. We discussed this last week. He went into action and killed Goliath. And because he killed Goliath, the Philistines went on the run, and the Israelis pursued and defeated the Philistines. Two different situations, the same outcome, and similar approaches to reaching that outcome. That is, using their faith in God and being knowledgeable of the fact that God will fight for Israel, and that and drawing strength from that, they decided to confront an enemy that they should have been afraid of. So, what are the similarities between David and Jonathan? They were both brave men. That's what we just described. They were both brave men, and they had the opportunity to demonstrate their bravery against the Philistines. They had strong faith in God. In fact, the two times that they confronted the Philistine army individually, they were propelled more by their faith in God, and their faith in God being the God of Israel, than in anything else. So they believed that God will fight for Israel, and because God will fight for Israel, they believed that the Israeli army is invincible, cannot be defeated by any other army. So they never expected defeat, they expected victory. And each of them witnessed the Israeli commander, Saul, the Israeli king, failing to take advantage of this strength of the Israeli army. At the battle at Michmash, Jonathan noticed that, was not happy about it, and he stepped in and took over. The other battle, David saw what was going on, was not happy about it. He stepped in and took over. So both of them saw that the king of Israel, Saul, somehow was not able to take advantage of the incredible strength that Israeli army had as the army of the living God. So we see that David and Jonathan shared a lot of similarities. But Jonathan saw David as superior. After all, Jonathan was there when Goliath was challenging the Israelis. And he really at that time, he didn't know what to do. He didn't do anything. He was probably thinking about it in his mind and didn't know how to confront this giant of a man. So when he saw a shepherd boy, somebody that was not even in the army at the time, come out and challenge this man and kill him, his admiration for this boy went through the roof. So he believed that he admired David for the superior qualities of bravery, leadership, and faith in God. And something told him that David was a leader, has been chosen to be a leader, that someday David was going to be a great leader. And he believed that he could help David, not by fighting him, but by walking under him. He believed that he could help David to become the leader that he believed that David was destined to be. The leader that he believed David has been chosen to be. So the two of them made a covenant of friendship. And this was after David killed Goliath. They came back to Saul's house. David talked with Saul. And after that, Jonathan met with David. And they bonded in spirit. That's the way the Bible describes it. And they made a covenant of friendship. Let us read about this covenant. 1 Samuel chapter 18, verse 1 and verses 3 to 4.
After David had finished talking with Saul, Jonathan became one with the Spirit.
One in spirit.
With David, and he loved him as himself. And Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as himself. Jonathan took off the robe he was wearing and gave it to David, along with his tunic, and even his sword, his bow, and his belt.
Yes, so Jonathan and David made a pact to become friends. Jonathan was a decorated soldier, and he took some of his equipment and gave them to David. That was a sign of friendship. At that point, their friendship started and blossomed. And let us see the acts of friendship, things that happened between them, in which they demonstrated that they were very strong believer in each other. And Jonathan was determined to help David in whichever way he could. The first thing, that Saul plotted to kill David. And we saw this in a previous Bible study, that Saul was looking for a way to kill David. And one of the things he did was he talked to Jonathan and all his attendants and said that they should kill David. Now Jonathan quickly went and informed David that his father had given an order for him to be killed, but that Jonathan should just go and hide and then give him some time to talk to his father. So Jonathan told David to go and hide and give him some time to talk to his father. Then he went and confronted with his father, discussed with him, and eventually actually convinced his father that he should withdraw the threat that he has issued on David. Let us read about this in 1 Samuel chapter 19, verses 1 to 7.
1 Samuel chapter 19. Saul told his son Jonathan and all the attendants to kill David, but Jonathan was very fond of David, and warned him, "My father Saul is looking for a chance to kill you. Be on your guard tomorrow morning. Go into hiding and stay there. I will go out and stand with my father in the field where you are. I'll speak to him about you, and I will tell you what I find out." Jonathan spoke well of David to Saul, his father, and said to him, "Let not the king do wrong to his servant David. He has not wronged you, and what he has done has benefited you greatly. He took his life in his hands when he killed the Philistine. The Lord won a great victory for all Israel, and you saw it and were glad. Why then would you do wrong to an innocent man like David by killing him for no reason?" Saul listened to Jonathan and took this oath: "As surely as the Lord lives, David will not be put to death." So Jonathan called David and told him the whole conversation. He brought him to Saul, and David was with Saul as before.
Yes. So Jonathan told David to go into hiding for a while. Then he went and talked to his father and convinced his father that he should not threaten David, that he had no reason to seek to kill David. His father agreed with him and made an oath and said, "No, I will not do anything to David." So Jonathan informed David and brought him back, and David resumed his service to Saul. We actually studied this in a previous lesson, but we are going through this to see the different things that happened between David and Jonathan that show the practice of their friendship, how their friendship in fact influenced their life. So the next act of friendship that we want to look at was what we just talked about, was Saul's fourth attempt against David, on David's life. And then this one was a fifth attempt when Saul sent his men after David. David had escaped, and he sent his men after David, and David escaped from his house, then found a way to go to Jonathan later on and complain to Jonathan and say, "Look, your father is still trying to kill me. What did I do to your father? What did I do that he is hunting me down and trying to kill me?" Well, Jonathan initially tried to dissuade David because he didn't believe it. But David gave him information that convinced him that in fact, maybe his father was trying to kill David. So they devised a plan to find out what was really going on. Jonathan was going to find out whether in fact his father Saul was determined to kill David. So let us read about this. 1 Samuel chapter 20 verses 1 to 7.
1 Samuel chapter 20. Then David fled from Naioth at Ramah and went to Jonathan and asked, "What have I done? What is my crime? How have I wronged your father, that he is trying to take my life?" "Never," Jonathan replied. "You are not going to die. Look, my father doesn't do anything, great or small, without confiding in me. Why would he hide this from me? It's not so." But David took an oath and said, "Your father knows very well that I have found favor in your eyes." And he has said to himself, "Jonathan must not know this, and he will be grieved. Yet as surely as the Lord lives, and as you live, there is only a step between me and death." Jonathan said to David, "Whatever you want me to do, I'll do for you." So David said, "Look, tomorrow is the new moon festival, and I am supposed to dine with the king. But let me go and hide in the field until the evening of the day after tomorrow. If your father misses me at all, tell him, David earnestly asks my permission to hurry to Bethlehem, his hometown, because an annual sacrifice is being made there for his whole clan." Then he says, "Very well, then your servant is safe. If he loses his temper, you can be sure that he is determined to harm me."
So David and Jonathan made this plan. David was going to stay away. In fact, he had really escaped from Saul's service, but now they want to determine whether he should just continue on his run or whether he could come back. So he was not going to go to this festival he will stay away and stay in hiding and let Jonathan find out what was happening. So Jonathan went, and based on what he found, well, before he went, actually, he and David reaffirmed their covenant. They still confirmed to each other that they are friends and they will not harm each other. And it was at this point that Jonathan began to address David in a way that suggested that he believed that David was going to be the next king of Israel. Like he said, may the Lord be with you as he has been with my father. His father is the king. So it's like, okay, you're going to be the next king. May the Lord be with you the same way that he had been with my father. Then he asked David to be kind to him and his family and said, whatever happens, do not cut me off. Do not cut my family off. You know, you will be kind to us. So they renewed their covenant. Let us read about this in 1 Samuel 20, verses 12 to 17.
1 Samuel chapter 20. Then Jonathan said to David, by the Lord, the God of Israel, I will surely sound out my father by this time the day after tomorrow. If he is favorably disposed towards you, will I not send you word and let you know? But if my father is inclined to harm you, may the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if I do not let you know and send you away safely. May the Lord be with you, as he has been with my father. But show me unfailing kindness like that of the Lord has, as long as I live, so that I may not be killed. And do not cut off your kindness from my family, not even when the Lord has cut off every one of David's enemies from the face of the earth. So Jonathan made a covenant with the house of David, saying, may the Lord call David's enemies to account. And Jonathan had David reaffirm his oath out of love for him, because he loved him as he loved himself.
So, after Jonathan and David had reaffirmed their friendship, then Jonathan went to find out what was going on in Saul's mind. Was Saul really determined to kill David? And while he was making this inquiry, Saul advised Jonathan. He in fact scolded him that in fact that David was a threat to him, that as long as David lived, that his kingdom, that he, Jonathan's kingdom, will never be established. Essentially, he was telling him that it was in his interest to kill David. Let us read about this in verses 27 to 33 of 1 Samuel chapter 20.
But the next day, the second day of the month, David's place was empty again. Then Saul said to his son Jonathan, why hasn't the son of Jesse come to the meal, either yesterday or today? Jonathan answered, David earnestly asked me for permission to go to Bethlehem. He said, let me go, because our family is observing a sacrifice in the town, and my brother has ordered me to be there. If I have found favor in your eyes, let me go away to see my brothers. That is why he has not come to the king's table. Saul's anger flared up at Jonathan, and he said to him, you son of a perverse and rebellious woman, don't I know that you have sided with the son of Jesse, to your own shame and to the shame of the mother who bore you? As long as the son of Jesse lives on this earth, neither you nor your kingdom will be established. Now send and bring him to me, for he must die. Why should he be put to death? What has he done? Jonathan asked his father. But Saul hurled his spear at him to kill him. Then Jonathan knew that his father intended to kill David.
Yes, his father intended to kill David and advised him that he should help him to kill David, that he should go and get David so that his son will kill him. Well, Jonathan was David's friend, and he was loyal to David. So now he knows that his father Saul was determined to kill David. So he went to David. He and David had devised a way to communicate. He went to the field, called David out by doing what they had prearranged. So David knew that Jonathan had established that Saul was determined to kill him, David. So David came out. He and Jonathan said their goodbyes, hugged each other, and David left Saul's service for good. He didn't go back to Saul. He went in a different direction, and Jonathan returned home. Let us read about this in verses 41 to 42 of 1 Samuel chapter 20.
After the boy had gone, David got up from the south side of the stone and bowed down before Jonathan 3 times, with his face to the ground. Then they kissed each other and wept together, but David wept the most. Jonathan said to David, "Go in peace, for we have sworn friendship with each other in the name of the Lord, saying, 'The Lord is witness between you and me, and between your descendants and my descendants forever.'" Then David left, and Jonathan went back to the town.
Okay, so Jonathan knew now Saul intended to kill David. He said goodbye to David, and David went away. David has left Saul's service. Now, we are not going to see the details, but because these are subjects for future Bible study. But David went on the run, and Saul went after him, chased him to different places. And one of the places he chased him was a wilderness. The name had just escaped. They were going to pick that from the Bible passage. So David, while he was running from Saul, got to this wilderness, hid in a cave, and somehow managed to send a message to Jonathan about where he was. So Jonathan went there to meet him. Remember now, David was on the run from Saul. And Jonathan was loyal to Saul, his son's second in command. But he went to meet with he went to meet with David that was in hiding from Saul. So this shows the level of friendship between these people. And what he really did when they met was that to comfort David, he first of all, they reaffirmed their covenant, and then he told David, he said, "Don't be afraid. My father will not be able to lay a hand on you." Essentially saying, my father, yes, he's after you, but he's not going to be able to kill you. So don't be afraid, because God is with you. Then he reaffirmed, he told David what he believed. He said he knew now that David will be king over Israel. And he wants to be David's second in command. I believe, the Bible doesn't tell us this, but I believe that this was not Jonathan lobbying to be second in command. He was simply promising support to David. He's saying, "Look, I know you will be the king of Israel. Don't worry, I will be there to support you." That's what this message was about. My father is after you. Don't worry, God is with you. My father will not be able to lay a hand on you. I know you will be the king of Israel. Don't worry, I will be there to support you. I am with you. So Jonathan believes David was a chosen leader, and he believed that his role was to support David, to lend every support he could to help him to become the type of leader that he believes David can be. Let us read about this interaction in 1 Samuel 23, verses 15 to 18.
While David was at Horesh in the desert of Ziph, he learned that Saul had come out to take his life. And Saul's son Jonathan went to David at Horesh and helped him find strength in God. "Don't be afraid," he said. "My father Saul will not lay a hand on you. You will be king over Israel, and I will be second to you. Even my father Saul knows this." The two of them made a covenant before the Lord. Then Jonathan went home, but David remained at Horesh.
Yes, so David was hiding at Horesh in the desert of Ziph, and he knew that Saul was coming after him. But he and Jonathan managed to meet, and Jonathan's interest in meeting with David at this time was to strengthen his faith in God. He told him two things: don't be afraid, my father will not be able to kill you. Then second, he said, I know you will be king over Israel, and I will be there to support you. The next act of friendship, unfortunately, was when Jonathan died. Jonathan and Saul, David was still in hiding, but this time he was living behind enemy lines. He was living under a king in the Philistine territory. These are subjects for future Bible studies. But we pick on it today because it shows the level of friendship that existed between David and Jonathan. So Jonathan followed his father to a battle against the Philistines, and the two of them, Jonathan and Saul, were killed at Gilboa. Then somebody came and reported to David that Jonathan and Saul had been killed. David wrote a lament for both of them. He mourned them, but we reproduce here his special lament for Jonathan to show the level of the strong feeling between the two of them. He said, I grieve for you, Jonathan, my brother. You were very dear to me. Your love for me was wonderful, more wonderful than that of women. This comes from 2 Samuel chapter 1 verse 26. We're not going to read this, but let us look at the next act of friendship. Because David, of course, went on to become the king of Israel, and by this time Saul and Jonathan were long dead. So David inquired about Jonathan's family. Said, is there any son of Saul still alive, that I can, through whom I can show kindness, God's kindness to Jonathan? So it happened that the son of Jonathan, called Mephibosheth, was alive. He was crippled. He was really not somebody that you expect to find in a king's palace. You know, the kind of person that people despised at that time, because he had this disability. But David sent for him, brought him, and said, Mephibosheth, I'm going to restore to you all of Saul's land, so that you will, to become yours, everything that Saul owns, every land that Saul owns will be handed over to you. But more important, I want you to eat at my table, at the king's table every day. At this time, David was the king of Israel. We are not going to read the whole thing, but let us read from 2 Samuel chapter 9, verse 6.
When Mephibosheth, son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, came to David, he bowed down to pay him honor. David said, Mephibosheth, your servant, he replied. Don't be afraid, David said to him, for I will surely show you kindness for the sake of your father Jonathan. I will restore to you all the land that belonged to your grandfather Saul, and you will also eat at my table.
I will restore to you all the land that belonged to your grandfather Saul, and you will always eat at my table. So Saul's estate essentially was handed back to Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, and he was also admitted to to the kingdom as a member at the dining table every day, at the king's dining table. So this was the way that David showed kindness, that David remembered his friendship with Jonathan and restored whatever he could in the name of his friend Jonathan. Well, let us see what we learned today. That David made a very positive impression on Jonathan. Remember, the same way that God looked at him and said that this is a man after my own heart, that you human beings look at outward appearance, but I look at the heart, and this is the man I have chosen. So that was the impression, that was the kind of impression that David conveyed to Jonathan. And Jonathan saw him as a man of God, saw him as a leader, a chosen leader, and saw him as a person that will be the king of Israel someday. Jonathan admired David because of the qualities he had, his bravery, his leadership, and his faith in God. David admired Jonathan for the same qualities, and two of them became very close friends. Closer than any kind of friendship, that in fact they became the example of friendship, David and Jonathan. Jonathan, what is key to their relationship is actually something we've been trying to learn since April. We had this seminar in April that we learned about strategic alliance. That if you notice somebody that has qualities that indicate that he's rising to greatness, he's rising to do good things, he's a chosen vessel, somebody God has chosen for a purpose, that the right thing to do is to stay close to this person, to lend him your support, because you will benefit by doing that. You will benefit more by doing that than you will benefit by trying to prevent that person. In this particular case, Jonathan was the son of the first king of Israel, the son of Saul. Naturally, people thought that he would be the next king of Israel. He has the right to think that way. Nobody had told him that, but his father Saul had sort of believed that yes, this will pass to Jonathan. In fact, he made Jonathan his second in command from the beginning to the end. He wanted Jonathan to fight David. When Saul saw that David had strong leadership qualities, was a very brave man, a man of God, he believed that David was a threat to his kingdom. He believed that David was a threat to Jonathan's kingdom. So he wanted Jonathan to help destroy David. But Jonathan himself saw in David the qualities that he admired, qualities that he believed a leader needed. He believed that David would be a king of Israel, the next king of Israel, and he believed that his role was not to try to prevent David, but to try to help him, to try to support him. So he threw his support firmly behind David. He told David when he had the opportunity, said, I know you will be the next king of Israel. Don't worry, I'll be there to support you. I'll be your second in command. I'll do whatever I can to make you succeed. So he saw David as the chosen leader, and he decided to support and be loyal to the chosen leader. This was the relationship between David and Jonathan. Do you have any question, Kosi?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay.
But it was a good session.
Yes. Well, we We thank God that we've been able to go through this lesson on the friendship between David and Jonathan. And we hope that all the people that will get an opportunity, get in contact with this lesson, either by watching the video or by listening to the audio, will learn more than we have learned, and learn something that will make a positive impact on their life and will bring them closer to God's purpose for their life. Thank you, and God bless you.